Okay, this is a very, very special episode of Inappropriate Earl. You know, usually I have unknown people, comics, musicians, actors. Today I have quite possibly the gayest looking man I've ever seen in my life. But he's also the most famous man who's ever been in my apartment. If it wasn't for this man, there would be no UFC. There would be no Pride. There would be no gay nightclubs in Japan. Please put your hands together for the one, the only, the Predator, Don Frye.
Are they clapping?
Oh, I can hear him now.
Okay.
And you're not just a UFC, Pride, pro wrestling legend. You're also an insurance commercial legend now.
That's right, man. Yeah, I peddle insurance on a motorcycle.
I mean, you look good in those commercials.
Some people have a gecko. Some people have some crazy-looking broad, you know, over too much makeup and bad wig, and then some people got me.
Well, yeah, but now we first met. We're both friends with Rob Schneider. Rob was getting married. He said, "Earl, I'm going to sit you next to someone who you're going to really love." And I thought it's going to be an alphabetical seating chart. I thought maybe it'd be Jerry Seinfeld, Adam Sandler. And I got to the wedding with my girlfriend. I see a guy in a cowboy hat. I'm like, wow, Tom Selleck's here.
Yeah, scary.
And then you turned around, and I went, that's the guy who fought the Japanese guy, like a hockey fight. And we've been friends since.
I wouldn't call you a friend. I mean,
acquaintances.
You make quite an annoyance, basically, you know. Kind of like, you know, having a boil on my scrotum, you know, something that just won't go away.
Well, see, that's why you're on the podcast. I mean, 3 minutes in, you're talking about your scrotum.
Yeah. Well, I see you were sitting over there leering at me, so I figured I'd just give you a brush off real easy. And
you did. You brushed me off for about 3 hours, and then I thought I'd be a wise ass, and I think I called you a pussy, and you put me in an arm bar in about 2 seconds.
I don't think it's 2 seconds. I think it's like a blink of an eye, right?
Well, it hurt. That's all I know. I mean, what do you know me? The people out there know me. Would I make a good UFC fighter? I mean, I've got a nice lean body.
Yeah, phenomenal. You know, you remind me of all the people in the UFC. You remind me of the female referee.
Right. I mean, Kim Winslow. Right. She kind of is a cross between Dolph Lundgren and, I don't know, a giraffe?
Tall and scrawny and pale, yeah.
Now, what do you think? Now, I don't know if a woman should be refereeing big guys fighting. I mean, she seems to always be refereeing the heavyweights. What are your thoughts on that?
You don't want my thoughts on it, partner.
I do, though. This is why it's called Inappropriate Earl.
She shouldn't be there. You know, I mean, what experience or knowledge does she have of the sport? I think anybody who's going to referee or judge should have been involved in it for quite a while. So there's a bunch of judges out there that aren't qualified to do it.
So you're saying, like, I would not be a good MMA referee because I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. I mean, can you find the cage?
What's the cage?
Right, yeah.
Now, John McCarthy, to me, the two best referees are John McCarthy and Herb Dean. What would your assessment be?
Yeah, I was lucky enough. I was over at in Las Vegas last week at the World Mixed Martial Arts Awards, and Jens Pulver and I presented the Referee of the Year award.
And who won?
Herb Dean won. And
he does martial arts himself.
Right.
I think John McCarthy did as well, or does.
Yeah, I think John, when he started out, when the UFC started out, the first UFC, they had a really bad referee. The guy was afraid to be in there, be near the guys. And then the second UFC 2, they had John come in, and he was a student of the Gracie's Jiu-Jitsu. And being a big cop, I mean, he was perfect for the job.
Now, when you were in the UFC, I think you won number 8 and 10, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I won 8, and then I won. The 9 was a single match. I won that single match. And then 10, I was runner-up to Mark Coleman, and then I came back and won Ultimate 2.
Now, this is at a time. I guess this is the time when John McCain referred to it as cockfighting. I mean,
John McCain's a waste of flesh.
Well, see, that's why I have you on the show. No one's going to say that. That's why you're going to pump this podcast to at least 10 viewers.
Right.
But I mean,
John McCain is responsible for costing me several $1 million.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because he outlawed the UFC, and they ended up taking it off of pay-per-view, and I had to go to Japan to make my living rather than being able. It was in the prime of my career,
Right?
And lost all the money that I could have made.
Now I've seen in recent interviews with him, and I don't want to upset you because I can't calm you down. I mean, you're a big guy still, so I don't want any problems here.
And you better select your words very carefully.
Right. But I've always said I could kick your ass. No, I'm just kidding. Now,
better put your helmet on, boy.
Right. Now, it would still hurt. I can't imagine taking a punch from you, what that would feel like.
You wouldn't feel it for long.
But now John McCain seems to have become a fan of MMA. What do you think brought this sudden change of heart? That it's popular now?
In my, let's see, my opinion,
don't hold back.
Right. How do I say this without slandering the little waste of flesh? I think it's all money. I think he found a way to get a little bit of money out of it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a nice softball to throw out there. Mm-hmm. But like I'm fascinated by the era when you fought because that was were there guys that you saw either you fighting yourself or that you would watch and go, this guy shouldn't be in here? Like the first guy you beat, Thomas Hernandez, he was a taxi driver.
Was he?
I mean, he clearly someone probably who was the matchmaker, Art
Davies.
I mean, do you think it was more less a case of Art seeing this guy going, Jesus, this guy would look great. 400 pounds, he's a monster. Let's put him in there against, say, Don Frye or Mark Coleman and see what happens.
Well, you didn't know who you're going to get back then. We did the tournament.
Right.
And they kind of just basically threw all the names in a hat and pulled them out,
Was there ever a way you could maybe get a select opponent? Like if you went up to Art and said, hey, I wouldn't mind fighting this guy, or it was just really...
No, it was up to Art and Robert Meyerowitz. And it was their show,
right?
So they put you where they wanted you.
Now, how did they find you? I mean, did they like your wrestling background, or I mean, I know you had experience in martial art. I mean, you were one of the more well-rounded fighters at that time.
Yeah, I wrestled in college and Little International, and then after college, I did a year and a half pro boxing. And
you won your only match, right, in '89?
No, I had 8 matches in pro boxing.
Well, you should rearrange your Wikipedia page.
I didn't write it, and nobody called me and asked me. So don't believe everything you read.
I mean, who wrote it? Stevie Wonder?
I have no idea. I haven't even read it.
Oh, really? No, there you go.
But I had eight fights. Let's see, and then I got out of sports. I was in a bad marriage, so I got out of sports and got in the fire department. On my days off, I was shoeing horses, and then did that for quite a few years. And then I started taking up judo, started learning judo, and quickly became a second degree and a third degree black belt. And then I got a divorce and just called up Dan Severin. And he needed a throwing dummy. So I was his chief throwing dummy for Ultimate 1. And then he got me a few fights throughout the country. And then he recommended me to the UFC. And they called me, let's see, the fight was February 6th or 8th. And they called me about 2 weeks' notice, sometime in January. Asked me if I wanted to do it. And I said, well, hell yeah, I want to do it.
Did you know who you were going to fight?
No, I had no idea.
So you could have been fighting the 600-pound Emmanuel Yarborough or Keith Hackney. I mean, it could have...
No, it was David versus Goliath. So it was, about 200-pounders versus over 200-pounders,
Right. They like in the early days, the almost like kind of how Pride had the not the freak show matches, but you'd have a say a guy like Hongman Choi against Fedor just because the
Right.
visual,
Right.
and so
Well, everybody wanted, everybody always thought bigger and stronger would always win,
like a Bob Sapp type.
Right, right. And Hoist Gracie proved that wrong, and a few other people, proved it wrong.
Well, I mean, I could imagine like seeing Gracie beat Shamrock. It was like you would never dream of. I mean, Shamrock looked like a sculpture,
Like an action figure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he would. I mean, it's like there's no way this little Brazilian guy is gonna submit this guy, and bam.
Right, right. Well, he was smart. He knew how to, he knew how to tie you up and use the jujitsu skills.
Did you ever fight any of the Gracies?
No, I never got to. Never got to.
Did you want to?
Yeah, of course you wanted to. You always want to fight the best.
And they were the dynasty family at back then, right? I mean,
Right. They were it. Yeah.
and what would let's say you fought Royce. What would your strategy be? And I'm actually being serious.
Yeah. Well, I'd have stuck a move, I'd have used my boxing skills and wrestling skills and judo skills, and I'd just, punch him and threw him and then stayed off the ground with him and wait for him to get back up. And then I'd keep it standing.
Right. But his whole goal would be to try and get you down.
Right. Grab you, tie you up and pull you down the ground, then, submit you.
Now, would it be easier since he's wearing the gi to maybe hold him off, or?
No, actually, that gi is a trap for most people.
Right.
They grab it, and then once you grab it, your one arm's locked up. That leaves you just one other arm.
Right.
But people get tunnel vision. Like when they down there in Africa, they trap a monkey. They have a gourd, and they go hollow out the gourd, and they put a seed in there. The monkey hears a little seed rattling around, so he sticks his hand in there, grabs the seed, and can't pull his hand out, once he makes a fist.
Right.
And he's too dumb to let go, so he's trapped. And
I think I have a lot in common with this monkey.
I think so.
Too dumb to let go. Now, do you have one opponent today? If you could come back and fight, do you have one person from today's, I guess it's just the UFC now.
Right.
I said, Don, I can make this match happen. We could go back in time. You'll be at your ultimate peak. Yeah. Who would you pick as an opponent?
Well, you'd have to pick, whoever the heavyweight champion is, of course.
Which is the great Cain Velasquez.
Okay, I didn't know that. I forgot his name.
Well, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. I wouldn't say great in front of his name, but obviously he has the belt, so he'd be the one you want to fight because it's a money fight.
Right. Well, now the problem I think for the UFC is he's hurt. He's got a bad shoulder, and so now they can't. They have to have all these matches, but at the end it's like they're on hold because and then the number 2 guy, Dos Santos. Most people would say he's already lost pretty badly to Velasquez twice. So what do they do with him? I mean,
well, they're gonna have to do like they do with every other champion they have. They get somebody who's champion for 1 or 2 fights and they get hurt, and so then they've got to have a temporary championship belt.
Right.
And that's the thing. There's no durability left in these guys anymore.
Are you talking just in the heavyweights or just with everybody?
All over. I mean, because shit. When I fought in '96, let's see. I think I fought 11 fights that year.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And now if you fight maybe 3 fights a year, you're considered a workhorse.
Yeah, we'd fight 3 fights in one night, so you'd have to, you had to be durable. And then we come back 3 or 4 months later, fight again in the next tournament.
Now, now you've seen the training camps of the fighters. They bring in a judo coach, a jiu-jitsu coach, all these different coaches in various aspects. Did you guys do the same back then, or just?
I was real fortunate because I had Steve Owen, who was my judo sensei, and Steve's like the evil Yoda,
Right.
He'd always, he's like an armbar specialist, and he'd teach you how to break somebody's arm 20 different ways, without moving, and then choke you out. And then, like I said, I had Rocco Ciatoli, who was my hands guy for boxing, so he was real good. And then I had some real good guys who as sparring partners, and they were always there. And you always count on those guys to show up.
And were they fighters too, or just?
They were ex-wrestlers. You had Sam Sotelo, who, he wrestled for Sunnyside High School, and he was a senior when I was a freshman. And he's one, when I started wrestling as a freshman, and I pinned everybody in the first round, so they moved me up to varsity. And I think Sam was one of my first or second matches, on the varsity level.
Right.
And he looked big as the door at 167 pounds. I thought he had to weigh 300 pounds. He was solid. And he beat the tar out of me,
Really?
Yeah. And then, 20 years later, we're working out again, And then I had Rainey Martinez, who was a former Navy SEAL. And then I had Rich Moreno, who was a former Marine, and he's a great judo expert, Then I'd bring in some guys who from collegiate wrestling, had them work out too. The McMinn family were real handy and helpful in my career. So yeah, I was just real fortunate. I had a lot of tough guys who weren't greedy and
Right.
And interested in themselves. They were just they were there for me whenever I needed it.
They wanted to help you get as far as you could go. Whereas today they'd probably go, well, how can I get ahead of him? And,
right. Pay and give me money.
Right. Yeah. I mean, these guys, I don't think people realize how little money these guys make.
No, but I was the first one. I always paid my guys, and I always made sure that they traveled. I paid their travel, and I think I was the first one. I think everybody else, back then, it was just the honor of being around a UFC fighter. But my guys I respected my guys, and they respected me, and and I paid for their bodies.
Right. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Now, do you think the UFC? I would love it, and I hate to keep saying just UFC, but they're pretty much the only game
in town, right?
Which I don't think is ever good. I always think, like in pro wrestling, it was never better than when WCW was giving a little competition to
right. Competition makes you work harder, right?
Well, now you can just throw any card together, and it's like, well, if you don't like it, what else are you going to watch?
Right.
And I mean, do you think there's too? I think there's too many cards. Do you think there are?
I think people are going to start getting burnt out on it. Yeah.
I mean, like there's a card this weekend,
right,
in Brazil. I think I looked at the card. There's one good match. It's Machida against Musashi, who I love because he was from Strikeforce.
Yeah.
And then it's like, Jesus, who the rest of the fights? They might be great fighters, but it's like I don't know if I would pay to see that.
Yeah. Well, and then, is it a freebie or is it a pay-per-view?
I think it's a freebie because next week is the Rousey fight, Ronda Rousey against Sarah McMahon, and then just yesterday it was announced that the second main event of Cormier and Rashad Evans is canceled.
Really? What happened?
I think Evans hurt his knee.
Really?
And so Cormier, he has no one to fight, and Chael Sonnen said, I'll do the fight on 10 days' notice. Now, what do you think about that? Do you think he's just doing it for promotional, sake? Or, I mean, do you admire when a guy like Sonnen saying that?
I think he's full of shit, But I get a kick out Chael. I really like Chael. Yeah, and he's fun. He's real good for the business.
He reminds me of you, though. I mean, like very outspoken.
Yeah, he can't keep his mouth closed either. Right?
But he's like a slightly less gayer version of you.
Right. Yeah.
But he's a great fighter, as you were. I mean, you don't get the credit, I think, for being the fighter you were because you're so. Not many MMA fighters have a personality.
Right. Yeah. Not many at all, boy. I mean, like look at, like you said, Cain Velasquez. Jeez Louise, that guy's like watch the paint dry.
But I mean,
there's nothing to him. He's just a blank wall.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a guy
He's
who's
so damn dumb. You can spot him the C and the T, and he still couldn't spell cat.
Well, I couldn't either, though.
Right? Yeah. Well, I'm preaching to the choir here, right?
Did you know tit spelled backwards is tit?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
I just figured that out.
Well, you're a genius, aren't you?
Well, not really. I mean, I'm just an idiot.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to say that.
Well, I will, because I know my limitations. Yeah.
Tit, yeah.
Now, what do you think? I'm sure it would never happen, but if the UFC went old school for just one night, and you had a tournament, open weight class, no limits. I mean,
I don't think anybody'd show up. I think they'd all call in sick.
So you could have like Uriah Faber against Overeem. I would love to see that.
Right? Yeah. I think Uriah is tough enough to show up. Maybe Mark Munoz, but
you think Overeem would have to eat some sharks and horses to just?
Then that kid who that dumbass Okie who beat up GSP. What's his name?
Oh, Hendricks.
Yeah, he'd show up. He's tough.
What about Weidman? Weidman seems like
Weidman's tough.
Weidman.
They're ex-wrestlers. The ex-wrestler always show up for a fight.
Right, including Lesnar.
No.
Now, let me ask you your opinion on Lesnar. Like, to me, being just a dummy fan,
yeah,
with no MMA background,
yeah,
you're not disagreeing with anything I'm saying,
right? You keep going. You describe yourself more in there. Yeah, keep going.
Lesnar seemed to me, just as an outside observer, like he didn't like getting hit.
Right.
Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, if something gets punched, he turned around and ran the other way. He'd still be running if there wasn't a cage there,
I mean, when Overeem gave him the liver kick, I've never seen a MMA fighter go ouch. I mean, he literally said, "Oh."
Yeah.
I mean, do you think? What do you think his deal was? Do you think he got into MMA just to go, oh, this could be an easy way to make a few bucks, and then he got hit and it's like, oh, maybe this isn't.
Yeah, he found out that it was real. Yeah, it wasn't WWE pro wrestling, and it wasn't somebody in the back, writing a script who wins and who doesn't. He found out these are serious athletes.
Oh my God, unbelievable athletes.
He found out what it was like to get punched. He didn't like it.
Now, in Pride, I've always heard, not necessarily that fights were, scripted, but did you ever hear that? Were you ever in any organization, you don't have to name them, where it was implied, hey, maybe you want to, carry this guy a little bit?
No, I was never around any of that. No.
Oh, okay. I'm just hearing rumors out there.
Yeah.
Not of you specifically, but, I thought maybe, in some of the Pride fights, you go, geez, this fight doesn't really seem like they'd have Bob Sapp fighting this little guy, and this little guy seems to be carrying Bob a little bit. I mean, I would shit in my pants if I saw Bob Sapp coming at me. And you've acted with Bob Sapp in Big Stan.
Right.
Where you played a white supremacist.
Right, and Bob beats me up in the movie. Bob's a good old boy. I like Bob. He's a good guy.
Oh, I love. Now, is he? Because his visual image is so like, my God, this guy's a fucking house.
Right.
What is his MMA background? I mean, he's just a brawler.
Right. He's just a big, 400-pound chunk of muscle.
Now, how do you fight someone like that?
Hey, you stick and move, and eventually, they're going to get tired.
Right.
It takes a lot of energy to move 400 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
A lot of oxygen. Eventually, they're going to get oxygen depletion.
Whether they're fat or muscular.
Right.
Because muscle weighs more. I would guess that the more muscular you are, the tired you're going to get, just because.
Well, moving 400 pounds is 400 pounds,
Now, did you ever fight Hong Man Choi?
No, I fought Akibono. He was 486 pounds. He's 6'11", and he was Yokozuna.
Right.
Champion sumo wrestler. So he was a 6'11", 500-pound real athlete, not just 500 pounds of blob. He was a real athlete.
And what's the strategy fighting someone like not just a big guy but skilled?
Yeah. Well, you try to stay away from him, but I mean, being an athlete and being good at his sport, there was no getting away from the guy. He bum rushed me and put me in the corner, and man, did that hurt.
I can't imagine. I mean, so when he bum rushes you in the corner, what's going through your head? Like, how do I get out of this corner?
Yeah, how do I get away from this guy,
Who was the strongest person you ever fought?
Well, probably Akibono or Mark Coleman or Ken Shamrock.
Now, Coleman also had the wrestling background.
Right, yeah, he was a national champion wrestler, right, and on the Olympic team in '92, I think it was.
So, but you coming from a wrestling background yourself, I mean, you guys were probably pretty even in that area.
No, he was much better than me, because he was a national champion.
But you might have been the better striker.
Right, I was a much better striker, but I was, that day just wasn't my day. I woke up sick and, laid in bed all day trying to find my energy and couldn't find it, and then went out there and had 2 bad matches, that went a long time. When he was, he was so powerful, his matches went by fast. And, I was backstage and I was just dehydrated, worn out, and I looked around me. We were this close to pulling out,
Right.
And but I looked around at the alternate, so that I can't send one of these children out there to face that monster.
Right.
It'd be murder, So I, put my big boy britches on and went out there and got my ass kicked.
Well, that's you also kicked a lot of ass. Everyone loses, right?
Right. Yeah. Eventually, you get cocky.
Right.
And you get a little cocky.
I can't imagine you being cocky.
I know it's an odd thought, isn't it?
I mean, you're just a happy-go-lucky guy.
Yeah. Very professional.
You're one of the more successful guys from your era.
Yeah. Been lucky.
I mean, you actually have. You're coherent. I mean, some guys, I can imagine, like if you took a interview and say 10 years of maybe 10 guys you fought in the first couple of UFCs, some would not be in a pretty situation.
Well,
financially or.
Right, but a lot of those guys, they showed up for one UFC, got the shit kicked out of them and went home.
Right.
So they didn't take any long-term damage,
Like the first Samoan, like the very first fight in the UFC was that big bald Samoan guy who got kicked and
lost his tooth, yeah.
tooth, the French fighter whose name is escaped.
Gerard
Depardieu? No, that's the actor. Right, that's
Gerard.
The guy.
Yeah, Gerard.
I don't think I ever saw the bald guy again in a fight.
No, I don't think so either.
Now,
it was funny because the way I was told it, they. Like I said, it was the first one, and they had people from Disney there,
right,
looking at ringside with their program there, and they were thinking about investing. And then, boom, that tooth got kicked out, and then landed right in the guy's magazine, in his program. He just folded and said, "We're out of here."
Yeah.
Disney didn't want to have anything to do with it.
I can't imagine Disney investing in the early. I mean, that was really when it was. Pretty crazy.
Well, I mean, the first UFC, nobody knew what the hell was going on, except for the Gracies.
Right. It was like blood sport. I mean, like it was just kind of throw these guys, out there. You don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And but now, I mean, it's beyond big, and it's.
Well, like everything else, on the planet, the USA. Has taken it and adapted it and made it their own and became champions of it,
Now, do you think, I mean, to me, to go up against the UFC, you would need a short-term plan, a mid-term plan, a long-range plan, and the money to do all those plans. Do you think in the future anyone could legitimately compete against the UFC?
Oh, you mean as a new organization?
Yeah, like I mean, Strikeforce. I personally liked it when Strikeforce was around, but they didn't seem to really know what they were doing. They had the money, the
Right.
CBS Viacom money, but they, I don't know, seemed to drop the ball.
Yeah, they did. I mean, and then Mark Cuban was supposed to have gotten into it. And apparently he has a lot of money to lose. But a lot of these people, they look at the initial investment and the propensity for loss, and then they just don't want to, take the opportunity, take the chance to lose that money.
Right.
So they say, nah, forget it.
I mean, I look like when Affliction was around,
Right.
and the big fight was going to be Fedor against Barnett.
Right.
And then I think Barnett, something happened with a test. And I mean, literally, because that fight didn't happen, the whole organization went under.
Right.
And Affliction, that they have money.
Right.
So, just I think having money alone doesn't help. But
no, they've got to have like you say, a long-term commitment.
right, to lose money.
Yeah, you got to figure out. Well, I'm going to lose $500 million before we start making. I mean, they're claiming that the UFC makes $1 billion a year. So
It's a lot of money.
yeah,
Do you think that's an accurate figure? I mean, like, would you?
yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's all gravy at this point.
Now, were you ever approached to be like a commentator? Or I mean, I think you would be great on this broadcast.
Yeah, apparently I pissed off everybody in the UFC. So
Because you're too honest.
yeah, I can't keep my mouth shut. Right.
Well, yeah, but who? That's why you're a great podcast guest. You should have your own podcast.
I shouldn't I?
You got a great voice. You got a great face for a podcast.
Yeah, I got the face for radio. That's right.
So do I.
Yeah, that's for sure.
We could be partners.
Anybody who saw the real you, they dropped their dinner plate, boy.
I mean, would you say just looking at my face, I might have been in a fight or two, or is this just ugly naturally?
I would think you'd be like the sole survivor in a really bad train wreck.
See, and I can't say anything back to you.
No, you can't.
Because even though you haven't fought in a while, you could kill me.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep that in mind.
What would be your first move on me? Just a rear naked?
No, I don't want to. You and the word naked just don't go together,
And rear.
in any part of my life. So forget it.
Now, speaking of rear and naked, recently we had the first. Well, he's not in the NFL yet, but he will be drafted. First openly gay pro football player. This is actually a serious question. Do you think there will ever be an openly gay male UFC fighter?
Oh, I'm sure there's several just dying to get in there and roll around on the mat with these fighters. Yeah.
I mean, I would love to get in a rear naked with over-aim. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, what would the reaction be with the fighters? Do you think? Do you think they'd care, or do you think? I mean, I'm sure there's a gay fighter now. They're just not out.
Right.
I mean, would you care if you were fighting a gay fighter?
Well, if he showed up with an erection, yeah, that'd bother me. Yeah. So.
Well, that could be a new you could
tactic to win.
You could put a dick guillotine.
Right.
So you wouldn't mind. I mean, I'm not saying you would prefer it, but I mean, do you think? Like this player's reaction in the NFL so far is some players have said it will be a problem. Some players say they don't care. I mean, since mixed martial arts is more of a intimate combat sport,
right?
I could imagine if you were a homophobic fighter, you wouldn't dig it.
Right.
I mean, what do you think?
Well, you see, I come at it from a different angle because I was molested a few times when I was a child.
Okay.
So, I have a whole different perspective on it than
Oh no, I understand.
Other people.
Oh, I gotcha. Well, I'm sorry to bring that. I didn't know that.
Well, it's not something you walk around and advertise.
Well, no. Listen, I was an altar boy for 12 years, so how do you think I feel?
You must have enjoyed it then. You kept going back, right?
Well, that's why I went back an extra 6 years. You're supposed to stop after the 6th year.
Yeah.
So, I said, hey, Father, do you mind if I just stick around? I mean, I was the only altar boy who was 22 years old, but now, post-fighting, you've had a very successful acting career. How was that something you always wanted to do?
Yeah, if I could, anything I do to avoid getting a real job, yeah.
Right. Or to stop, at one point, did your body just say, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah, it did. And that happened a decade ago, and I was too damn dumb to listen to it. And May 2010 to May 2011, I had 5 back surgeries, and then last year I had my 6th back surgery where they ripped out the first fusion, and they ended up fusing 10 vertebrae. So my ass crack goes from my anus to my shoulder blades.
But you would have done that anyway, that surgery.
Yeah.
Now, is this just from years of the pro wrestling and the fighting, or was it from just
probably pro wrestling, the fighting? As a fireman, as a horseshoer, I've had a hell of a life. Good.
Oh, you're a legend, man.
Yeah, got to do. Well, I've had Pac-10 lifetimes in one life. So I've had a lot of fun.
Now, what was it hard? Like, going into the pro wrestling world. I mean, you're coming from a sport where you're fighting for real. Like, did you ever make a mistake, like, and actually hit a guy?
Oh yeah, those poor guys that had to work with me over there in Japan. They'd see that my name against their name on the roster, and you just see their head dropping. They knew they were in for a long fucking night. Poor guys.
But is that because you weren't as well trained as they were in the art of, like, not faking a fight, but like?
Yeah, I wasn't very good at pulling my punches, and then also they wanted me to make it look real.
Right.
They wanted me to be stiff. They just didn't let the other guy know it,
Now, was there ever a match where the guy's like, hey, can you ease off, man? This is starting to hurt.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's lots of them, yeah.
Now, what was the wrestling match you had with Josh Barnett like? I mean, there's 2 guys who are coming from the same background. I mean, was that an easier fight knowing that he was coming from your sport as well?
Yeah, and Josh is real good. Josh is a real good pro wrestler. He's soft, and I'm stiff. And unfortunately for Josh, I guess I ruptured his eardrum during the match. Yeah, so then Josh didn't enjoy it as well as I did.
But you're friendly with him?
Oh, yeah, Josh is a great guy. I just made a movie with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, last year we did Chuck Hank and the San Diego Twins. And it was David Arquette and Michael Pere.
Oh, wow.
And Josh and myself. And, it was made by the guys who made Bellflower.
Okay.
I
mean, David Arquette is he's getting into the stand-up comedy world now, and
is he?
I was I've been giving him not lessons, but some advice. We bonded because I was a fan of his WCW world title, which might have been I don't know if that was looked upon highly.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think anybody in the any of the boys, the workers, really appreciated that.
Well, I mean, I always wondered what a guy like, say, Sting, who's been wrestling for 30 years, busting his hump from the world over, sees an actor come in and win the world belt. I imagine the boys would be like, what the fuck is going on here?
Right.
Now, your match with Barnett, who won?
Josh did. He was the booker, and he booked himself to go over to win.
But now, did you get to get in some offense though? I mean, he let you,
Oh yeah, Josh is real professional. He didn't pull a squash match.
Right.
He made sure it was pretty even till the end.
I mean, I was driving to my hockey game the other day 8 in the morning, and I'm stopped at the light right outside my house. Now, 8 in the morning, there's no cars on the road. And all of a sudden, I hear this blaring music. I think it was Iron Maiden. I'm like, who's playing this music this loud? What a dick. The car pulls up. It was Josh Barnett. Driving an orange Charger. And,
Yeah.
he just looked at me, and I was about to yell at the guy, hey, can you turn it down?
Yeah, what are you going to say to Josh Burnett? Yeah. Nice music, sir.
Yeah, could you turn it up, sir? Now, he's still fighting. I mean, he maybe didn't do as well as he could have in the last fight against Travis Brown.
He had a real bad night. Unfortunately, like I said, you can't train for a fight and make a movie at the same time.
Right.
And I think that was one of the problems for Josh. He's spending too much time making a movie. When both jobs require 100% commitment. And you can't do both at the same time.
Like when you were in your prime, you would never have dreamt of, I'm going to film a movie too and fight Gary Goodrich. And I mean, you can't do both.
Right, and I learned that the hard way because I made the movie Godzilla. And
great movie. I thought your acting in it was stellar.
And then I said, I got to fight. Can I train? When I'm not filming, can I train? Oh yeah, sure. And then they had a weight room set up for me, and then I go in there and work out, and they go, wait, you can't do that. You're messing up your makeup and your hair, and it's going to take too long. So I was. It seemed that they lied to me.
Right.
Imagine that. Yeah. No,
you seem to play. You get a lot of Aryan Brotherhood roles.
Yeah.
Miami Vice.
Yeah.
Now, what was that like? That was a big film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was it neat to be on a movie set of that magnitude? I mean, that was a huge movie.
That was great. My wife and I love Michael Mann. He put me in 2 movies and then a commercial, and he's paid my bills for several years,
right.
With the residuals, so God bless Michael Mann.
Now, did you ever watch the TV show Miami Vice? Did you, have any, you were probably busy fighting.
Well, I think I was in high school, during that time, so I was busy playing football or wrestling or doing something else, yeah. So,
chasing women.
Yep, chasing little girls, yeah.
I mean, I can imagine you were quite the ladies' man in high school, college. Good-looking guy, great body.
I had one girlfriend in high school, and then we broke up, and I went off to college, and I chased everything, with 2 legs, yeah.
Female, right?
Yeah. I had a good run with the ladies in college.
Well, now you have a beautiful wife.
Yeah, I do. Molly's gorgeous.
Molly's the best. She handles all your merchandise.
Yeah, puts up with me, so she's got to be an angel.
And please go to, is it DonFrye.com?
Yeah, DonFrye.com.
And the T-shirts are wonderful.
Yeah.
The shipping's a little slow, but
you can blame me on that because, like I said, I had all those back surgeries. Molly was, handling everything.
Right.
While I'm laying around whining and complaining, about my back. She had to, cowboy up and handle everything.
Now, where did you meet Molly?
I met her at the gym. I just got divorced about a year earlier, and she was going through a divorce, and I was at the gym and walked by the aerobics room. Hot damn, that'll work. So I asked her out twice. She turned me down. Figured I'd give her one more time, like baseball, 3 strikes and you're out. And
right.
Third time she said, "Okay, I'll meet you. I'll go to dinner with you, but I'm driving my own car."
Yeah, I mean, I would be if I was going out on a first date with you. I'd be a little nervous.
Yeah, well, you don't have to worry about that.
Oh yeah, no, I fly straight.
Yeah, okay, good.
I love women. I like a girl if my ideal girl would be maybe a cyborg.
Yeah.
What do you think of Cyborg?
Oh, the fighter?
Yeah. No, the Van Damme movie. Do you think she's the only legitimate competition for Rousey?
Right now, yeah. I'd like to see her fight. I think it'd be a fantastic fight. It'd be the only thing that make Rousey nervous.
Right. I mean, because I don't. There doesn't. But do you think the UFC almost likes Rousey not having too much competition because she can just almost be like a pro wrestler, like Goldberg, and just go on this undefeated streak,
Right,
and like the fight she has next week against McMahon, who is an Olympic wrestler.
Yeah.
How do you think that fight plays out?
Well, I think just like when Frank Shamrock fought Kenny Monday and Kevin Jackson. I mean, they were both Olympic gold medalists wrestling, and the dumbasses went for a double leg takedown and stuck their arm right there for Frank to slap an armbar on him. Frank armbarred 2 Olympic gold medalists, in about 40 seconds each.
So you're predicting possibly a not easy win, but another armbar win.
Another Rusi armbar, right.
Now, what's the best? I was at her fight in San Diego where she fought Sarah Kaufman, and it was amazing that Kaufman had the armbar defended, and you just saw it was like a video game. The arm just was. There was. How do you defend against someone who has such a, almost unbeatable move?
You don't get in that position. You punch him in the face, and you keep moving. You stay away from him. Well, that's like fighting Gracie. Once he got you on the ground, it was over. So you got to have a better game plan than I don't know who's the last gal who just fought her.
Misha Tate.
Right. What a stupid game plan she had. She kept going for the takedown. Why would you go on the ground with a judo fighter?
And having, I thought, very good success with striking.
Yeah.
She kept trying to take her down.
Yeah, it was stupid. I think her boyfriend's her trainer, so there you go, right there.
And he's like a mid. I don't mean this in a insulting way, but he's. I think his name's Brian Caraway. Like a mid-level fighter.
I get a new boyfriend and a new trainer.
Right.
That was her.
Well, maybe you could. Well, you're taken right now,
That's
but
right. I have a wife and 2 daughters. Yeah.
Why? Wow. How old are the daughters?
They're 12 and 13.
Okay, well, that's all right. They don't have to worry about dates. But let's just say in like 7-8 years when they're in their 20s, guy comes to the door to take them to a movie. What you answer the door, what do you tell the guy? Get her home by 11.
That's right. What movie are we all 3 going to go see?
Maybe a remake of RoboCop.
Yeah. A remake of Godzilla Final Wars, right?
Listen, you can't remake a classic.
No, you can't. Shit.
Now,
I was real disappointed they're making Godzilla and they didn't call me up for a cameo or something.
Do you have an agent or do you get your own? I mean, you're at such a level where it's let's just call Don Frye. You probably don't even need an agent.
No, I need an agent. I need somebody to tell me to shut my mouth.
No, that's why you're That's why you're you. I'm going to sell that glass you're drinking water out of on eBay.
Yeah.
I'll give you a cut of the profit. I'm not the UFC. I'll make sure you're compensated.
Yeah, you probably get a whole 10 cents. Yeah.
Now, I thought Floyd Mayweather had the best quote when Dana was kind of going at boxing, say it's no good. He's like, Dana, you better be quiet, or I'm going to tell your fighters how pay-per-view numbers really work. And you didn't hear Dana talk too much after that. Like, what do you think of the pay scale? When you see like it was kind of mind blowing to me to see like I think in Overeem's last fight he got like 250. It's like this guy's like one of the main events, and he's getting. Right. I mean, do you think it could be better?
Of course it could be better. Of course it could. But I think he gets 250 base, and then he gets a percentage of the pay-per-view, which could elevate it to, $1 million, $1.5 million. But yeah, they're not getting what they should get, and that's their own damn fault. They need to get a better agent.
Right. That might be the gayest cell phone ring I've ever. It's like a boing, boing.
I just got this phone. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to operate it still and how to change the settings.
Are you an iPhone guy?
I think that is an iPhone, yeah.
Okay, well, I guess you are then.
Yeah.
Now, what do you have any acting stuff coming up?
No, not at the moment. No.
I mean, the commercials, the car insurance commercials, or I guess you do the motorcycle version.
Right.
They must. That's great exposure.
Yeah, that's real good. And we do the Predators predictions,
Which I love.
All right, you better say that. Yeah.
And they're on YouTube primarily. I mean, for the next, are you going to do one for the Rousey fight?
Yeah, we just filmed it the other day.
Well, you better cut out the Evans Cormier predictions. How do you think that fight would have gone?
I went with Cormier, because I think if he made weight, that's the thing. That's the big question, is if he's going to make 205. Because I guess 6 years ago he had problems doing it for the Olympics or something like that. So.
Well, I would say liver failure would be a problem, but
yeah, I don't know why he would think that once he's 6 years older it'd be any easier.
Well, right. Well, I think the main problem with him was that his best friend is Velasquez, and so it was like, well, I'm not going to fight him, so it's kind of like useless still fighting a heavyweight if you're not going to. I mean, he's probably the second best heavyweight right now, outside of Dos Santos maybe, but I don't think. I think the UFC's done with Dos Santos and Velasquez.
Right. How many times can you bride that one?
Right. I mean,
I was involved with that IFL back in 07. I had a whole team full of idiots, and it was just turned my stomach. I had these two guys, and it's just like, you two need to fight it off. Oh, we don't want to fight off. We're friends. I don't care if you're friends or not. I want you all to fight off I want to take the best person in the position. I want you to fight. I don't want to fight off. I want to just let him. You know what? You're both fired.
Right.
I'll find somebody who wants to fight.
Now, did you have a best friend back in your fighting days? Like, I'm not saying Mark Coleman, but were you best friends with any fighter that you would have a tough decision if you had to fight them?
Just Dan Severn, and I'd never fight Dan, and I was lined up to fight him because I won the Ultimate 2, and he was the heavyweight champ, so I was supposed to fight him, but I'd broken my hand, in the match against Tank, so that put me on the shelf, and he ended up fighting Coleman. He lost to Coleman, and at the same time, the Japanese signed me for, New Japan Pro Wrestling, right. So that fight never happened, but yeah, that's one I didn't want to do.
But you would have. I mean,
I wouldn't have.
Oh, okay, that's great.
No,
because it's hard to beat up a friend.
Well, it's not only that; he's the one who got me into
it.
So I had a lot of loyalty to him rather than anybody else. It wasn't just a friend thing.
Right. Like you would have trouble fighting me.
Oh, I could punch you in the face right now, no problem.
Well, see, my fighting style would be more or less the Tank Abbott style. Just walk right in front of you.
Yeah.
Now, was it intimidating for you to fight? Well, you probably don't get scared of too many guys, but Tank Abbott's just he's Tank Abbott. He's like, how do you hurt? It seems like a hard guy to hurt.
But I'm Don Frye.
Well, there you go. That's why I don't fight and you do.
That's right. Why am I worried about Tank Abbott when I'm Don Frye?
Well, he seems like he would be a hard, like a scary guy to fight from the standpoint of he almost likes getting hit.
Right. Well, that's the thing. If a real fighter may not like it, but you don't mind it.
Right.
That's Brock Lesnar's problem. He's not a real fighter because he didn't like getting hit. He minded it very much. And you have to understand, if you're going to be a fighter, you're going to get hit.
See, I wouldn't like that.
Yeah. So you might want to stay with the podcast.
Well, right. I mean, I think I found my calling.
Yeah, you got those 10 viewers or listeners. Yeah.
Well, after this one, we're going to have at least 12.
Yeah, I can see it boosting phenomenal.
See, here's the reason I want you on the podcast.
Okay.
Because I want people listening who think pro wrestling's real. Those are your fans. I want people who think that Kamala was actually from Africa. And the UFC fans, the guys who wear the Affliction shirts with the bedazzled dragon. That's your fan base.
The only time you'll see glitter on the Don Frye T-shirt is when they come out of a strip club.
I like your merchandise. The new black shirt with the I think it says the Predator on it.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm going to order one Actually, as soon as you leave tonight, you're going to get an order.
Okay, good.
And I'll expect to get it around July.
Yeah. And you'll want us to cut the T-shirt off, make it a half shirt for you too, right?
Yeah, to show off this body. I mean, I'm on a horse meat diet myself.
I can see that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, let me ask you this: and I'm not asking you what you've done in your life.
Good, because I won't tell you. It's none of your damn business.
Absolutely, and I don't want to upset you.
How long is this interview going to go for anyway?
Listen, we're already at the hour mark, but we're going to go. This is what they call in the podcast world bonus coverage.
Okay.
I mean, you are a legend. I mean, there's just like you fought in the UFC when guys were walking to the octagon in hoodies and shorts, like with no sponsor patches. It was literally a hoodie from their closet.
Right. It's because men who wanted to fight, I mean, it wasn't about the money back then. It was, if, the only they guarantee you $500 to walk through the gate first round. You got $500, and then if you wanted the big money, you had to be able to fight, and you had to be durable to make it to the end,
Well, I mean, that was, I can't imagine. Do you think the fighters today could fight 3 times in one night?
No, I don't. There's got to be a few of them. Like I said, Weidman. Who's the guy who beat GSP?
Hendricks. Well, he.
Munoz. I mean, anybody from Oklahoma State University.
Well, I love Munoz. He's, a great fighter. Now, GSP seems to be coming toward the end of his career. Do you think he fights again, or?
I don't know. I think he's smart enough to retire once and stay retired. I mean, he got everything he could out of the sport, right?
Right. I mean, he's. It seems Hendricks is probably he's a tough guy. Hendricks.
Yeah. He's a caveman. GSP's refined French Canadian.
Right.
Hendricks comes from Oklahoma. He ain't afraid to get dirty.
But no, I would not. He seems to be like the new, the new era of. You had the pretty boy GSP. Beautiful fighting, not really finishing the fights, but dominating still.
Right.
And then Hendricks is more like a Jethro Bodine, just.
Yeah, he looks like one of those guys smacking 2 rocks together trying to discover fire,
Well, that was me.
Yeah.
And I never did it.
Well, you probably couldn't handle the reverberation from the rocks, hurt your cuticles or something, right?
I don't like pain.
Right.
As you can see, I'm a man of manicured taste.
Yeah, so you just wait for the match to be invented.
I'm like Brock Lesnar. I don't like getting hit. But I will say Brock Lesnar had a good fight card. He did fight, except for the first guy in Japan. He did, he fought either champions or, Keith Haring, who, if that's the worst guy in your fight card, that's a pretty good fight card.
Yeah, I'll tell you, personally, I think everybody who lost to Lesnar got paid off. Keith Haring's a professional gambler, right?
Right.
So he's bound to have some debts run up there in Las Vegas, and
of course,
yeah. So he probably, if he took a fall, his debts would be erased. So
now, what do you think about the Frank Mir fights? It's pretty hard to. Mir beat him. I thought Mir was getting killed in the first fight, and then Mazzagatti, questionable stoppage. They got to reset, and then Mir. Submitted him, but the second Mir fight was, I don't know, it wasn't too pretty for Mir.
Yeah. I don't remember it,
It was basically Lesnar killing him.
Yeah.
And Mir's face looked like, I don't know, a woman's private parts after a gangbang.
Well, I like Mir, but the dumbass, he's a world heavyweight champion and riding a motorcycle on the strip in Las Vegas, that's... What a dumbass.
Never the same after that accident.
Right, after that accident. There's things you don't do until you retire.
Right.
That? And riding a motorcycle on the strip in Vegas is one of them.
No, it may be ruined.
It's like going skiing, snow skiing or something. There's things that you got to wait until you retire to do.
Well, yeah. I mean,
you have a responsibility to yourself. and to the organization, to the fans. You don't get to have fun, you don't get to have fun until you retire.
Now,
that's what retirement's for.
Right, to have fun after you have a successful career in the octagon.
That's it, man.
Now, I brought up Overeem a few times. We all know about his physical transformation. When he fought Chuck Liddell in 2003, he looked like Roger from What's Happening.
Right.
And now
similar to you, yeah.
Well, I have a very lean body.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Yeah, scrawny would probably be a better word.
I mean, if I were in the MMA field, I would be a 205er, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And you're 6'7"?
6.5 inches to the left. Now and then, Overeem became this massive specimen. Performance enhancing supplements. Is that what have you seen in your time? Like, were there guys on special vitamins?
Well, I'm sure there was, but so what?
Well, I mean, I would think, and actually, might be the only serious question I've asked. I would think that when you're in a combat sport where strength is necessary, that if you have one fighter who's clean fighting a guy who's maybe on whatever, I mean, that's an unfair advantage. Or am I wrong?
You're wrong. Why is it an unfair advantage? I mean, because they're professional athletes. They want to extend their career and make as much money as they can. I mean, come on. You got states now that are legalizing marijuana. So, they're legalizing all these drugs, and then you turn on the TV, you got testosterone commercials for old men.
I buy those.
Right, I'll tell you what, everybody in Congress needs to take a shot at testosterone. Criminy.
No, McCain would be first up.
God, what a waste of flesh.
So if it were up to you, if you were in charge of the, let's say there was a MMA fight council that was the supervising all, you would maybe, would testing be involved? Or would you let guys just, hey, if you want to do it, do it. If not,
you want to be a professional athlete, and you want to make money and keep the economy of the U.S. going, which is in serious trouble. If the UFC is putting $1 billion a year into the economy,
right?
What's the problem?
I gotcha. This is why you're on the show,
right?
Now, a guy because I noticed when Overeem was, let's just say he was clean in his fights with...
when he's 190 pounds 10 years ago? 7 years ago?
When he fought his last two fights against Bigfoot Silva and Brown, I think he fought clean, and he couldn't finish them. Do you think once you've used supplementation of... I'm not saying he's used them, I have no proof, but... do you think once you've done steroids and then you fight clean, it's harder? Because it's I mean, what are your thoughts on fighting clean after you've done them?
Well, there's probably a psychological disadvantage to it.
Right.
You have doubts that you're strong enough, but you just don't take a steroid and then boom, you're Superman. It's something that just increases the strength, but you have to train for it. You still have to train, and what it does is it reduces the recovery time, so that you can train harder and longer. It's not a magic wand,
right?
Where if you took it,
I could beat you up,
right? You'd just be pissing in the wind, throwing your money away. You still got to work out, and you still have to train hard and understand what the hell you're doing. You still have to have the athletic ability, as a foundation.
Sure. Oh yeah, I wasn't saying you just take, stay in your underwear at night and pop a couple cc's of Anavar or Deca, and you're like Superman.
Right. Yeah, you know how to fight. That's what's wrong is people who actually believe that.
Oh no, I know. There's but I did find it funny. Did you happen to see the Bigfoot Silva Mark Hunt fight?
No, I didn't. I heard it was an outstanding fight, though.
Let me tell you something right now. I've seen thousands of fights. That was the greatest fight I've ever seen.
Really?
I mean, it was like Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I mean, both guys so bloody you couldn't see their face. But then after the fight, Bigfoot, maybe tested. He's an interesting guy because he's got that gigantism.
Gigantism, yeah.
Where I think they took his thyroid out.
Right.
And he, I guess his testosterone was a little high, and his manager said that he was actually lactating. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I didn't know it was possible for a man to lactate.
I didn't know that either. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
That's a good manager.
Yeah. How's the manager know? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's. I thought that I'll give him points for panache for the. That's a great excuse.
No, you give the guy a hug and you come pull back and your shirt's wet in 2 spots.
You can get maybe 3 if you're lucky.
Exactly.
I mean, now
scary.
Bigfoot Silva is a very scary. He's got that big jaw.
Yeah.
But I think they took his thyroid out too early because, usually if you have gigantism, you're like Andre the Giant. You're like 7'3". He's not that. I mean, he's about 6'4", I think. But his head, has a
head and hands, and his feet. His feet were like this thick.
Yeah, there.
Yeah, we were on the same card in Japan before years
Really?
ago. Yeah, his feet are this long, but like this thick. It's like the Fred Flintstone feet.
Right.
It's the strangest thing you ever saw in your life.
Was he a nice guy too?
Very nice guy. Yeah, very nice guy.
Now, your strategy in, say, finding someone like that who's that big, a world-class Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I mean, what? I don't know if you want to strike with him or do you.
Right.
You don't want to get him on the ground either, though, because he could probably off of his back maybe work some moves.
Like, that's the thing is, you've got to be secure, in your own skills.
Right.
And then, crime. Everybody nowadays is a world-class Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter, right? I mean,
but are they legitimate though?
Right, absolutely. How much faith do you really have in that claim? I mean, remember 18 years ago when the UFC hit, all of a sudden all these karate schools went from overnight went from karate to jiu-jitsu, and
right.
All they did is change the color of their belt, everybody was a black belt or a blue belt jiu-jitsu instructor, and they've got the book in the office there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what would you say the Gracies would be a legitimate black belt?
Absolutely. Gracie's changed, the outlook of fighting and martial arts, for all of America and almost the whole world, because just through having the UFC, they showed that. What a little guy could do, but they showed how important it was for submissions.
Right. Now, my dream, there's fantasy football, there's fantasy hockey, fantasy baseball. That is Don Frye's boner going off.
My daughter.
Do you have to take the call?
Yeah, let me tell you.
All right, Don's going to talk to his daughter.
Hello.
We're all listening in.
What are you doing?
Don Frye's on the phone with his daughter, so now it's up to me to carry the rest of the podcast. I hope you're enjoying this. I'm trying to fill up enough time where Don can talk to his daughter.
Okay.
Don's a great guy. He's come down to the Skakel Podcast Center.
Hi, honey.
And
fast. I'm doing the Earl show right now.
Don is a UFC legend, and I hope you guys are enjoying this podcast. We're covering a lot of ground. I mean, Don is a good man. He's a MMA superstar, an actor.
Sorry about that. But see, my daughters, their name comes up, and I'm answering the phone.
Oh, please. Listen, when Don Frye wants to pick up the phone to talk to whoever, pick up the phone.
Because I'm not smart enough to know how to turn my phone off.
Please, it's your daughter, it's your family. We can edit that part of the podcast out. Oh, but just leave it in there. That's the thing. We just fly here at the Skakel Podcast Center.
This isn't live?
Well, it is live.
Oh.
This will be on iTunes probably within a day.
Okay, so it's day delay live.
Day-to-day live. We're going to be live at some point. We're going to have video at some point.
Okay, cool.
But video was a little, to have high-def cameras and switchers. It's probably $10,000 to do it right.
Yeah. I understand. While you're holding off.
Well, I mean, I got a little bit.
You're probably spending $10,000 a month on this lavish household here.
I mean, this is it's a nice house. It's in the middle of West Hollywood. I'm secure with myself to live here. Back to my fantasy MMA question.
Okay.
Did you ever come close to fighting Fedor?
No, I didn't. I got to meet him one time. We had just both fought in Pride, and then we were both eating in the same restaurant. So he came over and introduced himself.
Really?
Yeah, we stood there and talked. For about 15, 20 minutes.
And was it like, hey, let's maybe get? Well, they didn't have a cage in Pride, but was it possible? So a possible fight could have happened between you guys.
I don't know if anybody ever, came up with the idea or not. I have no idea.
That's pretty neat that Fedor came up to you.
Yeah, well, you got to understand. He's probably 10 years old when I was in the middle of my, middle of my prime. So.
Oh, sure. But he was. You're my favorite fighter of all time. I don't mind kissing a little ass. He's my second favorite. Of course, I was a little sad with his American career.
Yeah.
He. I mean, the Verdum fight. It's like everyone gets caught.
Right.
And then the Bigfoot Silva fight. I cried.
Yeah.
I really did cry. I was like, it was sad to me. Like, he can't get up. This guy's too big. Do you think he got out at the right time? I mean, it seemed like the sport had maybe not passed him by, but passed his training methods by.
Well, I think he got tired of fighting and seeing the Russian mob take all his money.
Right.
That's the same thing that's going to happen with the U.S. taxpayer. U.S. taxpayer is going to get tired of working or busting his ass and having the government take all the money, and they're eventually going to go, hey, no, we're not doing it anymore.
Right.
So then what are they going to do,
No, I hear you. I mean, it's... although I did admire Fedor for really being the only guy to stick it to the UFC and say, no,
right.
I'm not, maybe it was his management team, the great M1 Global.
Right. It was stupid on both, M1's part and the UFC's part. They let their egos get in the way of making an outstanding amount of money.
Because I think the fight they were trying to make was Lesnar against Fedor. I think they said in Dallas.
Or Couture versus Fedor.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I know they had done there was a promotional video where they were actually doing the candid shots of Couture and Fedor, and then I guess...
Now, that would have been a good fight, Couture versus Fedor, but Lesnar versus Fedor, no, that would have been real bad for Lesnar.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, yeah.
Because, to me,
oh my God,
really,
Lesnar's a child.
Well, but still, to me, I thought Fedor against Bigfoot. I think Fedor was the more well-rounded fighter, but it's just Bigfoot's massive size was just too much.
I didn't see the fight, but once again, let's go back to our original statement. Bigfoot's not afraid to get punched.
Yeah, I mean, and that's scary to me.
Whereas Lesnar does not like the idea of getting punched.
So you think the first overhand power bomb by Fedor would maybe scare Lesnar? Oh, this isn't Kamala.
Look, they'd still be repairing the walls where they had to drag Lesnar out of the locker room to get him to fight. Okay.
Right. I gotcha. Now, I mean, all my guys are starting to get killed, so I think I have the curse of when I like a fighter, they start to lose. Like, I love Dan Henderson, Captain America. Now I sense a tenseness in your face right now. Are you not a Dan Henderson fan?
No.
Oh, see, there you go. I messed up. You know what? Let me revise my statement. Never liked Dan Henderson.
You're a smart man.
Now, I mean, would it be out of line to ask you why maybe you're not a Hendo fan?
No.
Oh, you're just saying no to the question?
Right.
Or what?
Well,
did you guys have a interaction of some sort? I don't want to get you pissed or anything, but this would be a good story, I think.
We went on a USO tour together to Afghanistan, and I found him to be a prima donna. You know?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just leave it at that. If you do you think you and him would be a good fight? I mean, not right now. I'm not saying now, but like, you know, maybe a couple of years ago, would that been a fight that entertained you? Maybe.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good fight now. You give me a few months to get in shape. You know.
Is there one fight that would draw you out of retirement? Like if Dana White, do you have a okay relationship with Dana?
No, Dana does not care for me.
Okay. Well, let's say I inherited just ungodly amounts of money. I said, listen, Don, I'm starting a new promotion called Skakel Force. We got the money. A couple guys' fighter contracts are up. I can get whoever you want. Who gets you into the cage?
See, it's not name or person. It's whoever has the belt. You know. I mean,
well, let's just say there wasn't a belt involved. Like Fedor. If I said, hey, Fedor, you know, I broke his contract with the Russian mob. I mean, M1 Global, and you know, could that get you out of retirement?
I don't think Fedor really wants to fight anymore. So there's no desire on his part to fight. So. You know, it's like having sex with a woman who doesn't want to be there. You know?
Well, I've done that.
How good? Right. Every woman you've had sex with, I'm sure, would rather be somewhere else.
Well, listen, Don, I don't mean to shatter your image of me, but I'm quite a ladies' man.
I bet you are. Yeah, I see all the male magazines and the cat food around here. And you know.
I mean, I may not be a UFC legend.
You're a legend in your own shower?
But I am 6'2", 200 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal.
I bet you are, yes.
I mean, if I learned how to take a punch and wasn't afraid of physical violence, I would be an amazing icon such as yourself.
I bet you would, yes.
But I mean, you see my body. I would be a good 205er, right? Got a good reach. I'll take the silence as a no. Now you mentioned to me before we started this that you might be getting into the teaching realm of possibly.
Right. We're looking over
some opportunities.
Yeah, I'm negotiating with the owners of Tarzana Boxing over there here in California.
No, I think that would be just your name alone. If it would be Don Frye MMA, whatever you would call it, that would be huge.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, you know, one of my drawbacks is most of my fans have died of old age. You know, so.
Right. So there's me.
Yeah.
Rob Schneider.
Right, and then you know the rest of the geriatric crowd. You know.
Right.
So. Maybe go to the retirement home and hold classes.
But I mean, I see how like Boss Rutan has a gym, I think, out here,
Right.
And it does very well. I mean,
Sherman Oaks, right?
Would that be something? Would you like to maybe get into? I mean, I know the gym world is. I think there's a train in Don's pants right now. Don Frye, for as tough as he is, might have the gayest cell phone rings ever.
I'm just learning, man. I'm learning the cell phone. I'm new to this technology thing. I usually just open up the window and yell, "Hey!"
I mean, I've seen gay porn less gay than your cell phone rings.
I bet you have.
But so I want people to be aware of, like, if you're in the Southern California area, you might be on the lookout for Don Frye's possible boxing MMA classes.
Yeah, over at Tarzana Boxing, yeah.
And that's sooner than later. Now, I don't want to hold you up much longer. I know you're a busy man.
Thank God.
First of all, I am humbled and honored to have you here.
You're damn right you are.
I mean, listen, I'm not trying to kiss your ass. The word legend it's overused.
Yes, it is.
They say, this guy's a legend. Or what has he done? Oh, well, he fought Tank Abbott in a bar in Huntington Beach. You literally are a legend. I mean, if it wasn't for you, Dan Severn, Gary Goodridge, Maurice Smith, there would be no UFC, and I really mean that. I mean, you guys were like I don't mean this in a rude way. Like the tackling dummies for, okay, this is working, this isn't, so on and so forth. So I'm humbled and honored.
Yeah, I compare it to NASCAR. We're like the old moonshiners.
Right.
who actually did the moonshine driving. with the old trucks with the real bad steering and bad brakes and, gear shifts on the floor and, hauling a load of shine and running from the cops. And nowadays they've got the cars that all you got to do is just think. You've got the spotter, you got everybody else doing your work for you, change your tires and all that. And
right.
all you got to do is run around in circles.
But, I mean, I don't think you guys get enough credit for going through uncharted territories.
Right.
I mean,
you know what? That was our decision. I mean, it's not like in rocket science or anything, but we were good at what we did, and we did it, and we weren't afraid.
Well, of course, but I just think you guys should be more acknowledged for the dues that you guys paid, so a Ronda Rousey could make what she makes, or a Johnny Hendricks or a Weidman.
All I want is to be able, to have a job, pay my bills. That's a man needs a job. Man's got to work.
Of course. I mean, listen.
Otherwise, there's nothing to him. There's no manhood involved if you're not working. If
we could have Frank Shamrock in high def with the braces, then anyone should get a TV gig. I mean, listen, Frank Shamrock's a legend as well.
Frank's outstanding. Frank, once again, like you said, Frank doesn't get the respect that's due to Frank.
I mean, held multiple.
He should have been one of the first ones in the UFC Hall of Fame.
Which is embarrassing that he's not in.
Right.
Whether you like him or not. I'm not saying you. I just mean the listeners. The path that he paved for many others after him.
Yeah. Frank did stuff that other people can't even dream of.
Right, and he's not in the UFC Hall of Fame.
Right.
It's what are your thoughts on, like? I mean, you would know more than anyone else. Who decides who gets in the Hall of Fame?
It's Dana White's personal Hall of Fame.
So, I mean, if you're not in with him, you're probably
not getting in.
Maybe not gonna like GSP obviously would have to get in, but I would say right now he's.
He may not if he pisses Dana off.
I think he has.
Right,
I mean,
so he may not be in there.
Which is crazy that one.
Hey, if you know what, if I owned something and I could make the rules, I'd do it. Who wouldn't?
I would do it too.
Human nature.
I love Dana White. Right. I mean, in that.
Yeah, he tells everybody piss off. I mean, you gotta like it.
I mean, he is the guy who, along with the Fertittas.
Yeah.
I mean, they
run the show.
I would say the UFC was not necessarily on life support, but I mean, it was, since it couldn't get sanctioned many places, was basically on the fringe of just being almost thought it was like pro wrestling.
Right.
So I think they do deserve that. I mean, if it wasn't for the Fertittas and Dana White,
Yeah, they lost like $240 million, first few years until it finally took off.
Yeah, I mean,
god dang, that's ballsy to, take that much of a loss.
Oh my God, I mean, when
stick in there.
Fertittas are saying, "Hey, we got to pull out. We're losing too much. You're losing a lot."
Yeah. And then then they had that one fight between Griffin and Bonner, and it just turned everything around.
Well, that was
great fight.
I mean, I had faded my. I think I could speak for a lot of fans, like who grew up watching you and Chemo and Tank and Dan Severn and Mark Coleman and not Shogun Hua, but the guy with the leg kicks.
Marco Huas?
Yes,
Marco Huas, another phenomenal fighter. That people don't give credit.
Right. I mean,
tell you back. Back when we were doing the tournament fighting, mostly all those guys were world champions of one art form or another. There weren't guys like nowadays. You got guys who, they put 6 or 8 years in the gym,
right?
And then or some of these guys on the Ultimate Fighter TV show, they're 0-0. And then they come out and they have 4 fights during the TV show, and they only got a 4-0 record, and they're going to be on a pay-per-view. Back when we were fighting, everybody was a man. Everybody had 10, 15, 20 years experience. They had their gold medals. It wasn't just tough guys getting off the bar stool. These were serious guys.
Oh, for sure.
They were champions in their art form.
Well, I mean, I prefer the older UFC days when you were there to today, because I don't think like the Ultimate Fighter is like the show for comics, Last Comic Standing. I don't think there's that much undiscovered talent out there.
Right.
So I don't. There's certainly been some great fighters come out of the show, but like the heavyweight season they had was pretty brutal. I mean,
I never, I that first year, I turned on the TV and saw some kid pissing in a bed, and I turned it off and never watched it again.
Yeah, I don't like stuff like that.
That's all I needed to see, and I never watched the show since.
I mean, I did. Speaking of Frank Shamrock and Couture, I did watch the Bellator show Fight Master, which I liked that a little better actually, because they concentrated a little less on the let's put hot sauce in the guy's jockstrap, and they were more into the fighting aspect, which I liked. Right. Craig Jackson, I think, was a coach, and the Warren, he was Joe Warren, I think. Couture and Frank was the coach. I thought
who was Joe Warren?
I think he. I'm not going to lie and say he was a champion. I think in Bellator.
See, I never heard of him.
I mean, I guess he was pretty good. I mean,
I understand Frank Shamrock and Randy Couture and then Greg Jackson, but never heard of Joe Warren.
Well, I think he was. I think he was one of the coaches because he had the Bellator background, and right. Spike TV and Bellator had their thing, and now one of my favorite heavyweights is in Bellator, the great Czech Congo.
Yeah, he's funny.
I think he's a guy who Dana might have a problem with.
But we all need to watch Predators predictions is what we need to do.
Yeah, now we'll wrap up with that.
Okay.
Well, actually, can we talk about one more serious thing?
Sure.
I know you're busy, but I know there's a lot of in the pro football world. There's the issue of concussions has come up a lot. Certain players, like I look at a guy like say Troy Polamalu. There's a guy who's vicious hits for 15 years, and then it's like what's his few concussions. And I look at some of the guys who fought in the first few UFCs. Do you think concussion issues will ever be an issue for MMA fighters?
You know what? I just think it's a bunch of candy-ass bullshit is what I think it is. Everybody wants the goddamn government to take care of them, from cradle to grave, and they're just looking for another form of a handout. If you didn't like it when it happened, you should have got out.
Well, I got you.
If you're doing it now, hey, I sit here and talk bad about Brock Lesnar, but at least he had enough sense to say, "Look, this isn't for me. I'm getting out."
Right.
You gotta give Lesnar that much respect. Okay, I'll Thank you. You just made me realize something that I was too much of an asshole to realize other.
Oh, sure.
At least Lesnar had enough sense to say, no, this ain't for me.
Oh, I respect anyone who gets in the cage.
Right, but I mean, just all these guys on the football field or wherever. If you don't, you get paid to get hit.
Right.
If you don't like it, fuck, go sweep a floor somewhere. Go change tires. Get a different job.
Change tires like Brett Rogers, who was heavyweight, one of my favorite heavyweights of recent note. He was noted for working at a tire shop, and Strikeforce signed him, and he was fighting Fedor. He fought Fedor, and he fought Overeem, and knocked out.
Didn't he go to jail for beating up his wife or girlfriend?
Allegedly, he had to get back in the winning streak.
That's yeah. You get so many losses, you got to pick up a win somewhere, right?
You got to fight a woman, and
go home and whack the old lady. Yeah,
I think she almost armbarred him, and then he got out of it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So you think, like, I read Gary Goodridge's book, and he's he had some health issues, and it was sad to me because it's like he was one of my favorite fighters. I love, and like I don't want to see, like, it's just sad. It's just as a fan to see. I almost feel guilty, like they fight because idiots like me
can't.
Well, absolutely. But I mean, I buy the pay-per-views, I buy the T-shirts, and I almost felt.
Look, nobody is forcing the fighters to go out there. You
right.
know that? I mean, you can go get a job changing tires or teaching school or anything like that.
Or having a podcast.
Right. I mean, obviously anybody can do a podcast.
Well, I'm proof of that.
Yes.
But, I enjoy getting to meet celebrities like yourself. Because
yes, you should. Yes. I mean,
there's
no other way anybody like you would ever get a chance to meet anybody of any importance.
Right. I mean,
suckering them into a phony podcast. Yeah.
To be honest with you, I'm not even recording this.
Yeah, I was gonna say these things even plugged in.
I just wanted you in my house.
Yeah, if you're sitting here with these fake microphones and Mr. Microphone.
I just want to hit you once just to see if I could get away with it. I'm just kidding. All right, so Don, it's been a huge honor to have you here. I know you're very busy. Do you have any projects you want the people out there to know? I know possible Tarzana boxing, coaching, but any movies, any Predators predictions?
Predators predictions, yeah. Like I said, we just did Chuck Hank and the San Diego Twins. I was hoping they're going to release it this year, but it looks like they're going to run it to Sundance next January and then release it, next year. But yeah, Predators predictions. Then we're also looking at a show called After the Final Bell.
And what is that about?
Well, I'll go on the road and interview retired fighters and see how their life, how the fight game has affected their life. Either positively or negatively. Look at their health,
right?
Their finances, their relationship. See if it's done, the fight game's done good, or if it's ruined their whole life.
Right, like
parts of it.
Well, I would recommend one. Did it have to be UFC fighters, or could it be boxing?
No, all over the world. Yeah, all over the world.
I would love. I got a great first guest for you.
Yeah.
Here I am being the booker for your show.
Yeah.
Randall Tex Cobb.
Yeah.
Who you remind me a lot of.
I love Randall Tex Cobb, man. I think he's great.
Well, he was. I was so enamored with him when he fought Larry Holmes.
Yeah.
Took a massive beating.
Yeah, I stood there
and just laughed.
Yeah.
I named my dog after him.
Yeah. Randall or Tex?
Tex. I was like, come here. And Tex was just like Tex Cobb. He took on all pit bulls. He was undefeated at Michael Vick's house, 12-0, and I had to put him to sleep. But so where now Predators predictions, they are typically come out about a week before the card.
Yeah, generally, yeah.
And you go on YouTube to look for them, or
go on YouTube. Bleacher Report's taking it. They've kind of stolen it. They'll put it on their site for me. They're real good people. Everybody. This has been a lot of fun doing those. We just filmed the third one here a few days ago, and I got the rough draft at the house, and he's gonna clean it up, and then I think they're gonna put it out here. Let's see, what is today?
So the fight's on the 22nd.
I think they may pop it out on Sunday or Monday.
Okay, so look for Predators Predictions, YouTube, and Bleacher Report.
Right.
And, please follow Don Frye. DonFrye.com.
DonFrye.com. Yeah.
He's got, I don't buy a lot of T-shirts from MMA people because I almost got into a fight once wearing a Fedor shirt. Guy came up to me at the gym. He said, what's your specialty? I said, excuse me? I said, rigatoni and clams. And he's like, oh, no, you're wearing that shirt. I just like the logo. Yeah. He's like, well, you should take it off. I'm like, why? He's like, well, if you don't do it, you shouldn't wear the shirt.
Were you here in West Hollywood?
Absolutely.
Did you take your shirt off?
That's what I told the guy. I said, listen, this is a gay gym. I'm not taking this shirt off.
Not again, no.
And besides, you're wearing a Pittsburgh Steelers shirt. I didn't see you in the fucking huddle.
That's it, yeah.
So, but please, buy Don Frye shirts. They're really cool. He's got autographed pictures, mugs, and Molly, I don't know even if Don knows this, but Molly has been in contact with me to pre-make the Don Frye dildo, which has his face at both ends.
Yes, it's amazing.
And
it's only about 4 inches long.
You can see if you can make his mustache grow. Don, you're the best. DonFrye.com, Predators Predictions. Folks, please spread the word about this episode. This is a legitimate legend in the world of mixed martial arts. You can see him with Dennis Haysbert in the insurance commercials. Please follow Don Frye. Make this man the next Frank Shamrock without braces. Get him a job with Pat Miletich and Mauro Ranallo. Let's bring back Strikeforce. Guys, this is probably the greatest episode of Inappropriate Earl ever. Next week, we're going to have Bob Sapp do a spelling bee. That is it, guys. iTunes, SoundCloud, Don Frye, Inappropriate Earl.